Hi guys! So today's lesson is going to be for Wednesday, May 13th. You have a bell ringer today and it's your last bell ringer. It is your last bell ringer for May and for the entire year. Well done! You did it and they're so good for you. Do you feel better that you did all of those bell ringers? You should. You should feel wiser too because they're good for you. They're good for you. When you answer today's bell ringer question, you should have a total of 3 for May and you can go ahead and turn those in. So yay, that's awesome. Well, after your bell ringer question, we're going to do slides 34 and 35. We are actually going to finish up slides tomorrow. So on Thursday will be our last day for notes for the year. Wow. Sad. Oh, okay. So 34 and 35 today. One is a writing slide and one is a picture slide. So pretty easy day here. So let's recap what we've talked about so far. President Kennedy is elected, and how has he changed the White House? Gosh, what are some things that he's implementing? Well, we have the Peace Corps, we have the Alliance for Progress, we have the Flexible Response. All of these things are meant to either help countries that need help, building homes, helping the poor, whatever it is. And then the other one is helping countries that need help, but also kind of like having a political agenda in there too, like, hey, we're helping you, so you have to do something for us. And then the last one is working on our diplomacy with other countries, basically saying like, hey, we're not gonna use an atomic bomb for everything, are we? Let's kind of calm down on that and have other options. So Kennedy's president. He is a huge fighter for civil rights. He could have done more. I wish he would have done more before he was assassinated, so rudely shot. I think he could have done more, and I really wish he would have done more for civil rights and for women's rights as well. He actually signed the Equal Pay Act, so women get paid the same amount as men. Unfortunately, that's not enforced everywhere. So even though he signed it into law, it doesn't matter if it's not enforced by anybody. So companies still don't really do that if nobody's going to get them in trouble for it. So yeah. Also, it has to be like approved, like revamped, and like presidents have to return to it and say like, okay, let's do this, let's change some of this stuff and act on it more and enforce it, like I said, and that hasn't always happened. So anyway, that's another conversation. 34, 35. There we go. Kennedy's new frontier. So we know that President Kennedy is very young. He's the youngest president elected. And he's also a Catholic, and he's changing up a lot in the White House, or at least people felt that he's going to change up a lot in the White House because he is so young and he's got all this energy. Kennedy has been around, and let me just say the Kennedys have been around for a very long time. It's kind of like the Roosevelts. When you hear like the name Roosevelt, you're like, okay, politics, and you like we have Teddy Roosevelt. Then of course we have Franklin Roosevelt, and they have just like been around a lot in politics. Like they and also they're very wealthy. So it's the same thing for the Kennedys as well. John F. Kennedy, his dad actually was an ambassador to France, I think. And I don't remember what president he was ambassador for. So his dad worked in government. Eventually, JFK's brother, Ted Kennedy, is going to be a senator for the United States Congress. His brother, Bobby, is going to be attorney general. So all of them have a lot of government experience, and there's a ton of them. There's a whole slew of Kennedys, actually, and they are very wealthy. But what's different about both families, I guess, like the Roosevelts and the Kennedys, just because they're very wealthy, like that doesn't mean that they like either brag about it or they can't help other people. And both families are very giving, and that they're really philanthropists in a way where they just like give back their money and try to help and make the world a better place because they are capable of doing that. So here's John F. Kennedy is in the White House, and what does he want to do? Well, actually tomorrow on Thursday, we're going to talk about his new frontier for space and how he wants to, put a man on the moon and all of that. And that's such an intense goal, and that's very serious for him to just say that he wants to do that. That's part of his new frontier. But what else does he want to do? And how is he changing the White House? So many Americans were struck by the youth of the Kennedy White House. Photographs, of the president often showed him engaged in physical activities like sailing and swimming. However, he suffered from a bad back in which he was in constant pain, and something called Addison's disease, which is like a fatigue condition where you're just like constantly in pain. Kennedy was in the war. I believe he was a Marine because I know he was, his like ship was in trouble or something, and he was like lost or waiting at sea for help, and he had to like help his crew. Gosh, and I can't remember what really happened on that. I just know that he was really, his ship was in trouble, and he had to help a lot of his crew members, and so he got injured a lot from that experience. So that's probably where a lot of his bad back and things came from. He was also just like very athletic growing up, and he's from Boston's not a state. He's from Massachusetts, and just wanting to be on the water all the time. Actually, when I visited JFK's museum last summer, it's right on the water. It is absolutely beautiful. They're actually outside of the museum itself. They have his boat that he would take sailing all the time with his family and with his kids. And you get to like walk right up to it. It's beautiful. Like it's just right on the water. And so that's where he loved to spend most of his time, was just like on the water in Cape Cod. So he's just very athletic and wanting to be outside constantly. First Lady Jackie Kennedy and the couple's 2 children contributed to the sense of glamour and energy that surrounded the Kennedy presidency. JFK had 3 children. One of them passed away as a child. I don't want to say baby. As a young child, he passed away, and he's buried actually next to JFK and Jackie in Arlington, in DC. And he had another son and a daughter, and Caroline Kennedy, his daughter, actually grew up to being in politics, and she was at one point an ambassador to Japan. So they're all involved in government and try to do good. The Kennedys are very, very giving. So the makeup of Congress reflected America's public mood toward the change that Kennedy wanted. JFK was a Democrat. I don't think I said that before. I'm sorry. JFK was a Democrat, and he wanted to push, again, for like things that would help and programs that would help the people and give back to the people. So he wanted to reduce taxes to fight rising unemployment, which would give consumers more money to spend. So if they cut taxes, that means we don't have to pay that much in taxes, which means that we have more money to spend, which is going to boost the economy, which would lead businesses to produce more goods because we're buying those goods, so they have to produce more. And if they are producing a lot of goods, that means they have to hire more people, which is going to make people have jobs. So it's a whole cycle here. It's a whole cycle. Unfortunately, Congress failed to act and continued to ignore some of the plans that JFK wanted. You can wish for all of these things. We've kind of learned this with FDR, right? Like you can hope for these plans to pass, but if Congress doesn't agree with them, then it's not going to go anywhere. You can make executive orders, but when it comes to like taxes and stuff, like Kennedy or the president can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to make an executive order to decrease taxes. He doesn't have control to do that. Congress has the power of the purse, and they're the ones that can do that. Although Kennedy was among the nation's wealthiest presidents, he sought ways to help poor Americans. I would actually say, I don't know. I think it would be interesting to see like the difference between President Trump and JFK. Like who's wealthier? That'd be pretty interesting to see, especially for the time periods with like inflation and stuff. Money changes. He convinced Congress to pass the Area Redevelopment Act in 1961, which gave financial assistance to economically distressed regions, and he was able to get Congress to raise the minimum wage from $1 to $1.25. How crazy is that? Today, I mean, this is 1960, of course, but today we're fighting for like a $15 minimum wage. Well, some states are fighting for a $15 minimum wage, which is a lot of money. But imagine if that was your only job, was a minimum wage job, that would help a lot. And you can't live off of just a minimum wage job today with what minimum wage is currently. So $1.25. Oh my gosh, imagine that. So he increased minimum wage, which people of course were very happy with. So he wanted to do really good for the people, and he wanted to make some changes, but it was whether Congress agreed with that or whether the country was ready for it, which is another reason as to why he couldn't really make a lot of changes in civil rights, because just because if he wants to say, oh yeah, great, everyone's equal now, that doesn't mean that people are going to get treated equally. And so when JFK passes away, actually, his vice president, Lyndon Johnson, becomes president, and he's like, I'm going to do what President Kennedy couldn't do because he was assassinated, and he starts making these changes to civil rights, and he has the Civil Rights Act and say everyone's free and everyone must be treated equally, which is great, but that doesn't mean that people are going to enforce it. So southern states are not going to be like, oh man, we have to treat people equally now. They're going to act like nothing even changed in the first place. So that though you implementing like a law, a lot of the times it doesn't matter unless it's enforced, which, I mean, there are people that are like, wow, it's the law, let's follow it because you should, because it's the law. But then there are other people in certain states down south in particular who just ignored it completely and was like, okay, well, we're going to go through that and find some loopholes because I'm not doing that. So it's whether the country is ready for these types of changes, and if they aren't ready and you go ahead with those changes, you must have a plan and how to make sure that we can transition better. You know, certain states are going to be fine with these changes, other states might not be fine with these changes. So that's probably why there was some pushback. In addition, JFK couldn't really do a lot with civil rights or like equal rights for, you know, everyone in the country during his presidency because he was dealing with a Cold War arms race with the Soviet Union. So as much as he wanted to like create equality for African Americans and women and for the country and have equal pay and all that stuff, he's also dealing with the potential threat of a nuclear war with the Soviet Union. He has the Berlin crisis. He's got the Berlin Wall, the Berlin airlift. He's got the Cuban, did I say Cuban Missile Crisis? Cuban Missile Crisis, Berlin Crisis, Berlin Wall. Yeah, just potential threats of nuclear war constantly that he's dealing with. So he's focused on other things, which, I mean, can you blame him? Nuclear war. Not a good thing, not a good thing. So we have some pictures here of JFK and his family. We have, that is him right there with his daughter, Caroline Kennedy. We have him right here with Jackie Kennedy. Again, right here with Jackie Kennedy, his wife. Right here. And this is the family. Look how cute that is. Look at him. Look at him. It was really a big change too, because he, like I said, he was the youngest elected president, and just the way that he was like so youthful and full of energy, and I mean, it was different. It was different for the president to be like that, and the way that their family was together, like as a unit. It's kind of like, think of like the Obamas, right? Like two young daughters, you know, going to school. Mr. Obama or President Obama having so much energy and being active. I mean, playing tennis or whatever he wanted to do, right? Like youth, being young. So that was just a different outlook for the country at this time to say like, oh, that's what our president is. And it took some time to get used to. And of course, he's only going to be president for 3 years because he's killed. Sad. And then what's even more sad is that JFK, John F. Kennedy's killed. And then years later, Bobby Kennedy, his brother, who was the attorney general, he's running for president and he gets killed. Guys, like that's, I think the Kennedys are cursed. Honestly, I think they are, because both of the brothers are shot. How sad is that? Oh my God, I'm getting sad like all over again. JFK is shot and killed, assassinated. Bobby Kennedy is running for president. Years later, he gets killed and assassinated. Just recently, like last month, Kennedys, and I don't remember who it is. I don't remember their names. I know they were a Kennedy though, like a granddaughter of a Kennedy. Her and her son were out canoeing, and this is so recent, like last month, I'm telling you guys, we're out canoeing and they are lost. They don't know where they are. They found the canoes tipped over, and then like weeks later, they found their bodies. What happened? That is so sad. They're cursed. They're cursed. And then someone got in a plane crash. One of the Kennedys, and I cannot remember who. Someone's son. Patrick. I can't remember. Someone got in a plane crash. I think they're cursed. That is my opinion. I think they're cursed, and it breaks my heart. That's really sad. Very sad. But those are the slides we're doing today. But now I'm sad. Anyway, don't forget to answer the bell ringer question. It's your last one. Turn them in when you're done. Like I said, you should have 3 total for the month of May. We're finishing slides tomorrow. Tomorrow's our last day for slides, and we can turn those in as well. Don't forget a summary. All right. See you guys.